go. Recording in 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Dateable, a show all about modern dating in the time of coronavirus. That seems to be the topic these days. We've got Shallon Lester on Zoom with us, so we can see her on video, and she is in her fancy Target sweats.
Fancy Target, they match, the tops match the bottoms.
But she's wearing hoops, so she's classy as fuck.
But it's hoops, so it's intentional. So this is like a look. Yeah, it's not just the bottom, the rock bottom of my life.
But isn't that funny? That's how you know when they're fancy sweats is when they match.
Right.
That's how you know. Yeah.
Right. It's very intentional. It's very Blanche Devereaux. I'm in a look, you know.
Thank you for dressing up for us.
This is like my own personal Met Gala. I'm like, this is my moment.
Met Gala.
Well, the best part of video only is we really need to get dressed from the top up. Like, you could be wearing anything. I know. It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, I have no pants
I could
on.
have tentacles. Yeah. Oh no.
Guys, like I could have a penis. You have no idea. It's just, who knows?
That would be a wonderful wrench thrown in this dating. You're like, does that have anything to do with stuff?
Well, if you don't know who Shallon is, then you've been living under a rock, because she is a very popular YouTuber. She currently lives in New York. She's been there for 12 years. Originally from Irvine. She's in her early 30s, pretty single, but also has been taking a dating sabbatical. I guess when you're quarantined, you kind of have to do that too. She's a popular YouTube who tells it like it is and breaks down celebrity relationships, scandals, psychology, to see what lessons we can all learn, and give you this no-nonsense advice and real-world tips on everything from dating apps and players to family and friends and fuckboys. That is your ultimate. You're an expert on fuckboys.
I feel like that's how I found you. I swear, I did a Google search and it was like
on fuckboys.
Shallon Lester.
I know. I'm like the fuckboy whisperer. I know what to do with them.
Shallon, your SEO is on fire. You're just like fuckboy Shallon Lester.
Yeah. That's why they find me. They're like, hey, I Googled myself and I found you. So you want to go out?
I Googled myself.
I Googled my own terrible traits and I came to you.
When she's not talking about fuckboys, she's also an author, former columnist at Glamour and New York Daily News, and editor of Star Magazine, NYC It Girl, and the host of Girl on Top podcast, where she answers your burning questions about love, lust, life, and lip gloss. Is it lip glass? No, it's lip gloss.
I'm not down for that matte look.
And everything in between. She's also, if you guys have to check this out, she's been hosting a daily quarantine dating advice live stream on her YouTube, and has some very sound advice. And how we started talking to each other was basically, how do you not murder the person that you're in quarantine with? So I guess first we should establish, who are you currently in quarantine with?
I'm quarantined with my mom, which is good because she's the best, and this house is better than my New York City apartment in Brooklyn. So, and then it's like, because I work from home and I know you guys do what I do, it's like, is this that different from my regular life? Perhaps it is not. And what does that say about how I've been living?
I love those memes that's like, the quarantine life. Oh, nope, this is my normal life. Nothing's changed at all.
But you know,
it's like, I can't wait to go back to New York.
But Shallon, do you have friends who, before this whole thing happened, were like, I don't know how you do it. Seems so great to work from home. It seems so awesome. All of a sudden, now everyone's working from home. They're all bitching about it. I'm like, what are you bitching about? This is what you wanted.
You know what, though? You can't take the break. I feel like when you work from home normally, you can like go to a coffee shop. You can go around. So it is a little different. It's the sanity. Yeah. But you're in LA right now, right? Or Orange County?
Yeah, I'm in Orange County. Yeah,
okay.
I'm in Orange County with the fam. So
you're in Irvine, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. My parents live in Aliso, so my parents are very close to you. I had a choice of either quarantining with them or being back up here in San Francisco. So we could have been neighbors at some point.
But you wouldn't have seen each other anyways. So.
Yeah. We could have gone to the Spectrum, like stood on opposite sides of the fountain and waved to each other. Oh, my favorite things.
No, we could have gone on the Ferris wheel. You would be one end, I'll be the other, and we can like text each other. It would have been so romantic.
Let's be honest, you guys would have been on this exact same Zoom that we're on right now.
I know.
sure. Like being quarantined with your mom is great, but how do you, I mean, being with one person 24/7 is always going to be hard. No matter how wonderful they are. So what are some ways that you're trying to like not kill each other right now?
With my mom and I,
Yeah.
definitely having individual schedules, you know, like she's an early riser. I'm more of a night owl. And so she gets up and she has her alone time in the morning. And then I have my alone time at night. And I think that's really like crucial where it's like, you can just watch what you want. You can do what you want. Cause I live by myself and she lives by herself. And we're not used to thinking in terms of what do we want for dinner? What do we want to watch? It's like, I want to watch 9 episodes of the Kardashians. That's who I am.
I want like, Mom, you're not on board.
A Hot Pocket. Yeah, like I am like a frat guy in this plate. You like, I want to eat a burrito. Like, and she's like, we're having like spinach salad with balsamic reduction. I'm like, why?
Wait, what? What?
Definitely having a schedule is crucial because then if you like, because a lot of us were quarantined with people who are working a ton and someone who isn't working at all, you know? And so they're like, hey, what are you doing? What you doing? What you doing? I saw a cat. Do you like colors? And you're like, like I have to do my work. So it's good to be like, I work from 8 to noon and then I take an hour lunch break and that's when I can hang out with you. And then I work from 1 to 3 or whatever, you know, because my mom, she's retired. So she's got her little house projects, but I'm like, I'm sure for you guys too, for content creators, this is like our Super Bowl. Like we are like keeping people from just jumping off a cliff and keeping everyone entertained. So I'm just pumping things out. So it's good for me the night before to be like, okay, this is my schedule tomorrow. So, you know, we can have lunch between here and here. And if I am busy, if I'm in my room with my door shut, I'm not just like ignoring you, I'm doing work, you know? And then when I come out of my room, it's like hang time. And so it helps no one feel like they're being neglected. And it gives other people a chance to have their own schedule as well. And that's really crucial because otherwise the emotional load is too much for people to bear. I think especially if you're in like a dating relationship, it's like you can't be your boyfriend's absolutely everything right now. Even though he might need that and want that. And if you fall into that pattern, it can be very, very difficult to get out of it.
Yeah, especially too with 2 people working from home. There's a lot of like video calls that are happening. I think you've kind of established like different space from your boyfriend. I think that, I mean, obviously if you're in a studio, that might be a little harder, right?
Yeah.
So it does depend on your living situation, but I think as much as you can divide this up into like office work areas, that could help with things too.
Yeah, I feel so lucky that I have the store and I can just lock myself in here while he's out in the living room. But no joke, I'm just going to whisper this. I walked out earlier and I was like, babe, what are you doing? He's like, I'm organizing our alcohol in alphabetical order.
You're like, you've hit a wall.
Cute. Like, okay, babe. Back to work I go.
That's like, really cute.
Everyone's gonna do what they gotta do right now.
Right.
But that's the thing. Really it's when both people are at home and they don't work the same job, it's your own different schedules. So you kind of have to establish a boundary of some sort somewhere.
Yeah.
So what about the singles out there? Because I'm kind of on that boat and I have a different set of problems, right? That I'm like literally living alone by myself. Family lives across the country. I kind of miss the window for that. What are some tips you have for singles to stay sane in this time?
You know, I think this is the great hibernation that we are going through as like globally. And there has never been a time where we are all kind of united in this winter season in terms of like hibernating. And when an animal hibernates, you don't think that, well, that's also the time it should be mating and foraging for food. You and the animal acknowledge like that's the time when they like recede, they grow, they do what they need to do. And then there's a spring season after that, you know, and we as people, we don't think that that's the case for us, but this is the time where we can set positive habits in our life, even if it's flossing, like get in the habit of flossing. Because I think either we're on 2 opposite extremes. It's like, I just need to survive and get in my fancy Target outfit and then I'm winning. Or it's like, I need to come out of this with a 6-pack and a book written and a this and a that. And it's like, just come out of this on a path, you know, whether it's the flossing path. I'm working out 10 minutes a day now. Every morning I get up and I stretch and I do planks and that's my path, you know, because we have the chance to really focus on what we want to do without the distraction of dating. And dating is off the table for every single person on planet Earth right now. And that's crazy. But that means we are at the forefront of our own priorities. And we might not get this chance again. You know, I mean, I hope we don't end up quarantined again, but like there's a silver lining to this if we look for it and if we really grab a hold of it.
Right. What would you say to people though that are like, hey, Shallon, I'm already on a time crunch. Like I'm hitting a certain age and now I've lost like 6 months of potential like valuable time. What do I do?
I mean, it's definitely easy to think that, but you know, there's no such thing as off schedule. Everything is on the perfect schedule. I'm a big believer in manifestation and that things unfold the way they unfold. And the worst thing you can do with dating is approach it from a fear-based standpoint, you know, because that is pure desperation, and desperation is the strongest smell in the universe. Boys can, you know, everyone can detect it a mile away. So if you're like, oh, I'm not going to meet anyone. Well, you're right. No one wants to be around that desperate person. But if you're using this time as growth, it's not lost time at all. You know, you don't look at a bear hibernating and be like, you piece of shit, you lazy bastard. You're like, that bear is doing what it needs to do. You know,
like,
it's getting better. It's resting.
Hinge, bear.
Right.
Yeah, bear.
Loser. Yeah.
Go on the Hinge for bears. Damn it.
Bear
wasting valuable time, bear.
Right. You're like, no. That bear knows what it's doing and it's getting ready for a larger season, for a different season, you know? So we can't change that this is happening, but we can change what it means. And if we look at it like this is wasted time and it's lost, it's lost, it's lost. All right, then that's your reality. But if you're like, this is time that I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to love my own emotional real estate now, and I'm going to feel comfortable with my thoughts and be alone with myself and just enjoy my time, that now dating is not, I got to find a partner. It's like, what do you bring to the table? Like, who are you? You know, I enjoy myself. I spent 6 weeks alone. I'm good here. What are you doing to enrich my life? You know, it's a good time to reset the people who are in our life that we've probably kept in out of like mania. It's like, I can't be alone. I can't not, you know, and now it's like, if we can lean into this anxiety of being by ourselves and get comfortable with it, oh my God, the people who are now going to be in our life are going to be so much higher quality.
I was going to say, I feel like after I went through a really terrible breakup, I spent a lot of more alone time.
Sorry, are you guys there?
Oh,
yeah.
Yep.
Sorry. Someone tried to FaceTime me.
Oh.
I literally called people. I was like, don't FaceTime me.
Unexpected? Rude.
Yeah.
Put it on my calendar.
I know.
I was saying like a couple years ago, I went through a really bad breakup that kind of shook me up. And after that, I really started doing more alone time and like taking trips myself and really valuing my own time, because I realized I had always just been filling the time with like friends and events and whatever. And I was never like alone in my thoughts. And I'm kind of glad that I had that, transformation back then, because I feel like it's kind of mentally prepared me for now. And I'm not like going out of my mind.
And you consciously did that. Imagine all these people who are not consciously doing that, all of a sudden hit with this, this mandatory alone time. I think it's really shocking for a lot of people who haven't been alone with themselves, even if they live with a bunch of roommates. Yeah. It's like really hard to just be alone and face yourself. There's something really powerful in that. And it's a great social experiment for all of us to be in right now.
Right. And we say a lot of times, like, people sometimes pick the wrong partners because of the fear of being alone. So if you can
sometimes, I would say the majority of the time. I see this all the time, you know?
Yeah.
For real.
Shallon, on your live stream, what are some of the common questions that you've been getting?
Like, why aren't people talking to me? Like guys that I was talking to, or I thought like, I haven't heard from them. They're in this quarantine. Why not? It's like, because he doesn't care. That's why not. Like, everyone's locked up with their phone and their laptop. And if he's not talking to you, it's because he doesn't care. And like, these are data points we cannot avoid logging. Like, you have to look at that. Like, if someone isn't checking in on you, like, I'm dating a few people and like, they're like texting here and there, but no one has been like, how are you? Are you okay? Is your mom okay? And I'm like, you know what? I don't forget this shit, because you're going to want me to come out of hibernation into the spring season and go right back into bed with you. Bro, I don't think so. I don't think so. And same with friends.
If there's no better, I know that you have many tactics to identify and deal with fuckboys, but I feel like this is like a super obvious one that's coming through right now.
I mean, seriously, if he's not texting you back, or if she's not texting you back now, like, what the fuck are they doing? Obviously,
what are they doing?
They're texting other people. So yeah, that is insane to me that people are still get hung up on that, because then they probably look for evidence of this person still expressing interest. Like, oh yeah, but they liked my Instagram post, right?
If someone can do it on the toilet, it doesn't count as courtship.
Yeah.
It doesn't count as courtship. Like even texting, like the boys I date, they call me, we have FaceTimes, like, and okay, that's good. But it's like, that can't be the only thing that you're doing. And one thing I've realized is how often girls make excuses for boys who don't even have the interest to make excuses for themselves. Oh, he's probably this, he's probably that. I was like, has he said any of this to you? Has he apologized to you? Right. No, you're just like spewing out these excuses for him. And he doesn't even care enough to do that for himself. Like, pull back. And again, it's like we're trying to fill this emotional silence with people and excuses and whatever. And it's like, this is such an opportunity to get to take a quantum leap in terms of maturity to where we want to be. And I mean, the world is going to separate from a dating point of view into people who didn't do that work and they came out of this eroded, and people who did do that work, because it is work, it is difficult, and who came out of it elevated.
But here, what about this situation? Someone who says, okay, I've been dating this guy, now we're in quarantine, he hasn't really checked in, he's not texting me. Should I call him out on it and communicate to him how I feel right now? Or should I just let it go and just take this as a red flag and know that I should just end this relationship?
Calling people out is tough. It's like closure is something you have to give to yourself, because if we could get closure from the people who hurt us, if they were that mature and communicative, we wouldn't need closure to begin with, you know? But if you want to call someone out, you can, but don't do it with hope or agenda, you know, because if you're calling someone out, you want them to respond. You want them to be like, I'm so sorry. You want them to say the excuses you've already laid in place for them. But if you just need to be like, you know what? This isn't working for me. I would say it after this quarantine is over, when they come back. Hey, what are you doing? Be like, you know what? You could have asked what I was doing for the last 6 weeks. You didn't give a fuck. So guess what? That's now a two-way street.
Right. Well, I think it's also a two-way street in the sense that you could also reach out instead of calling them out. Like, why don't you just hit up the person that you've been dating and ask how they're doing? And
no,
you don't agree?
No.
Men,
why sue women? No.
Let's debate it. What are your thoughts? Actually, let me say my piece and then I'll have you debate.
Okay.
It's good. I love the healthy debates. So my personal opinion is, if you've been dating someone for a little, you're not really hearing from them. I always like to give people the benefit of the doubt one time. One time is the key word of this, because you don't really know what's happening with them, right? Like, hopefully, on best case scenario is they're just sitting at home and ignoring you. That actually is best case scenario in my opinion right now. God forbid they got sick, they have a family member that's sick. Like, there is real shit happening right now.
Yeah.
So there is real shit happening right now. So I wouldn't want to jump to any conclusions. So what I would do is I'd probably ask them how they're doing, start the convo, see what their reception is. If they give you like one word answers, don't really ask stuff back, then yeah, put them in fuckboy category, but see how that progresses. And then after that, yeah, you don't have to be the one checking in every week. But I think at this time, like, we are all trying to not make assumptions that someone is kind of out there to get you. And I would like to lead with giving people benefit of the doubt for step one. So
no.
Let me get your thoughts.
No.
He's like, I don't agree at all. Okay.
Because listen, I guarantee you, and I say this with love, that's not an outlier behavior of yours. You probably give these guys benefits of the doubt outside of the quarantine. Right? If you look back on your dating history, you can probably say, maybe I've been a little too elastic with people. Yes or no?
Yeah, potentially.
I mean, me too. Like, I'm not saying this like, but the reason I say that is because it's such a slippery slope. You know, we're like, well, maybe now we actually do have a reason to give people the benefit of the doubt. But if we put that in our mind as an okay way to treat people who could also be giving us the benefit of the doubt, they could also be like, oh, maybe she's got a family member. Like, whatever we're thinking about boys, it's humanly possible that they could be thinking it about us.
Right.
And that they, as men, we're not teenagers, they're grown men. alpha males, ostensibly, that's who we want to date, you know, like fully formed men, not like weird beta males, could be like, hey, I'm going to reach out to this young woman who has like parents and a family. Like, why do we have to put ourselves out there when they could be human beings and be doing that to us? Because this is my theory, and I talk about this in my videos. It's what I call the passive reciprocation loop. Like, someone will respond to your text and they'll bounce the ball back and you'll have a conversation. They'll answer your call. They will allow you to come over and suck their dick. Yeah, great.
What a treat.
What a treat. But that's not courtship. That's not the same as forward courtship. If we remove our efforts, what is left? Right. You know? And so one day they fade out, they ghost out, and we're like, what happened? And the truth is nothing happened. They weren't chasing us then. They're not chasing us now. You know? And all these little, like, what's the big deal? It's just a text. It's just an invite. It's just this. I lived my entire dating career like this. Like, I am learning from my own very hard examples. But like, it seems like, oh, well, what's the big deal? If it's not a big deal, they should be doing it. And if they're not, that's data. And we have to just let that play out. We have to let it fade out. As painful and like nonsensical as it might be, there's no reason men can't be fucking texting us during this quarantine.
Do you mind saying that again?
What possible justification? Like, there's no reason. There's no excuse.
How do you really feel?
Because I wasted so many years doing this.
Yeah.
I wasted so many years. And I want people to not learn from their own mistakes. I want them to learn from mine.
So tell us about that. I want to hear your background and how you came out of it.
Yes, but can I give my opinion as well? Because
yes.
I'm going to take the middle road here, and I'm not just being a pansy, but I really think there are two ways to think about this. One way is to think, okay, well, if the other person, well, the man should, I hate using the word should, but the man.
I don't. They should. Okay. Because there's so many things that women should do. We should shave our legs. We should wear makeup. We have a million shoulds. Men have fucking one. They should pursue us. And that's one too many.
And I used to totally feel this way too. I feel like the man should be the pursuer, the courtship, and you should reach out. You should feel like I'm taken care of. And if you don't really care about me. At the same time, I think in this climate of Me Too, okay, and we've talked about this on our podcast too, the gender roles are very confusing, especially for younger men. And we have a lot of younger men reaching out to us saying, I actually don't know what I'm supposed to do right now. Right. I know there's shoulds from before and I know there's shoulds from now. I don't know how to make the two shoulds happen at the same time. So it's a should of I should be the pursuer, I should be the aggressor, and then I should also be respectful and ask for consent, and I should also step back. So I can also see right now during this quarantine, some men feeling really confused. I do want to reach out, but should I? I don't know if that's too aggressive. I don't know if that's too presumptuous. Yes, I see. I see you're shaking. Yeah. I see the duck face.
No, man.
Shallon's like,
If a man is trying to tell you that he's not sure if a text message, hey, how are you doing, is too aggressive, he's a fucking liar. That's a lying, gaslighting man who is turning this around. Well, gee, I would check in on you, but you're such a crazy feminist. I don't know how to act. Fuck you. Fuck you.
I feel the same way.
Don't gaslight women who have finally stood up for themselves and then be like, well, I don't know. You made it so impossible. I guess I just need a blowjob without kissing. I don't know. I'm not sure because I don't want to touch you because I don't know about consent. So you can just touch me.
I mean, germs spread the fastest through COVID-19 kissing. So blowjobs it is, right?
I know. I had said that when this thing first started, I was like, here they come. Like, here
they come.
You know what, though? But I think there's two guys out there. Sorry, you continue, then I'll go.
I do think that because of the quarantine, we should just let it go. I think we should, I mean, I don't mean to be Elsa here, but I think we should just literally let it go because who cares about the gender roles? Who cares about the presumptions? If you truly care about this other person, how they're doing, just reach out with a text. It's not that hard, and we shouldn't be thinking that much about it for both men and women. So if you feel the need to reach out to someone, stopping yourself and being like, no, I shouldn't because this person should have done it first. Like, who cares? This is not a game. This is not a race. We're no longer in competition with each other. It's not me against you. We're in this together against coronavirus. So why don't we just unite and just let the wall down?
Because we're still animals, and there is not a female in the animal kingdom that pursues the male. That's not how it goes. And if anything, like we should use this time to reset our behavior. And we can, and like I was saying, like it's such a slippery slope. It's like, yeah, right now, let's all just come together, hands across America, whatever. But we know that is going to bleed into after this quarantine, because we were probably doing it before. You know, like we can be, maybe we're like the girls who cried wolf. It's like, all right, well now really is the time that we can like set aside these games or whatever. But the fact is they're not games, they're courtship. They're animal courtship, you know, and men pursue women. We have our thing that we have to do. We give birth. Men never take that off our plate. That's just not how it goes. So if a man can't even text us and take that off our plate, because we were talking about gender roles and the Me Too thing. If a man isn't pursuing me, that tells me he doesn't understand what it's like to be a woman, and he doesn't care. He thinks he deserves to be courted and chased the same because we're the same. We're not the same, sweetheart. We're not physically as strong as men. We have the pay gap. We have laws against our bodies that men are never going to have to deal with. We're the ones who get raped and beat up. So if he thinks that we're equal, he doesn't understand women. And I dare say he doesn't want to, and he probably doesn't really like women. You know, and I want to see that. I need to see that writing on the wall about who I'm dealing with. Anyone can be nice in service of a blowjob. Anyone can be charming for a few dates. But if he, at the end of the day, oh, you should be coming to me. No. That's who you really are.
So I think when I was going to comment to Yue's point, and I would love your thoughts on this, Shallon, I think there's two guys out there. Like, I think there are the actual guys like you've been describing that are like, oh, I'm going to hit you up in 6 weeks once this shit blows over and everything's going to go back to normal. And I'm just too selfish. And I think that is a fuckboy. And I'd love your definition of a fuckboy. But I think the other side, and this is the guy that Yue and I come into contact with, is there are these like super clueless guys that are maybe beta men that you don't want to date, but they exist, right? So I don't think all men that aren't making moves are necessarily doing it maliciously. Whether they're the guy you want to date or not, that's another story. But I do think there is a pocket of them, exactly what you said. There are those guys out there. So how do you decide if it's that guy or the clueless guy? How do you know?
You know what? What's the difference between a bad driver and a drunk driver? Nothing in terms of outcome. Nothing. They can both do the exact same amount of damage. And I didn't mean to, doesn't insulate anyone from being hurt, you know? And the way we can, there's fuckboys, but on my channel, I talk about good guy fuckboys, you know, where it's like, they're not a bad person. They're a good guy, but they're like, you just get all twisted about them. And for me, a fuckboy is someone who treats you like you're in a different category than you are. There's really only 3 categories: friend, booty call, girlfriend, right? Don't treat me like a girlfriend if I'm a booty call. Don't treat me like I'm a friend if I'm a girlfriend. That's when girls go crazy, as guys love to say, because like we're making decisions based on a reality that does not exist. You know, we're going down this rabbit hole thinking we're on one path and we're not. And jerky guys do that more purposefully, like the true fuckboys.
Right.
But good guy fuckboys do it more cluelessly, you know? And the result is the same. Our obsession, our broken heart, our confusion, we feel stupid. So it's like being clueless is correctable, but we teach people how to treat us. And what we permit, we promote. I say this all the time. What we permit, we promote. And so if we're taking that call after 6 weeks of not hearing from someone, okay, I'll hang up. What did you just permit and promote? You know?
Right.
So that's why we have to get really, really good with ourselves about what our boundaries are and what we will and won't accept, and fucking stick to it. Even if it means, okay, I'm sitting at home now by myself, and okay, now I have to get back on Tinder. But I would rather it's quality versus quantity, you know? And when you can't be alone, you don't want quality, you want quantity.
Yep.
You know?
It's actually really powerful to think about this analogy of bad driver versus drunk driver because for both of them, you would not want them back on the road again. So that's kind of like similar to you don't want them in your life again because
you don't want them
because if you allow them on the road again, they'll keep doing the kind of driving that they do on the road.
Put people in danger.
The course of action is to put them back in driver's ed and make sure that they're more educated. But that's not your job to educate them on how to drive.
We are not rehabilitation centers for stupid men. We are not. Our pain, but we think that we are because we love a project, because we don't want to be alone with our thoughts and we don't want to fix our own issues. So, oh my God, it's so much easier to fix his. That is the definition of codependence. I care more about fixing his problems than he cares about fixing them,
Yeah.
But what can a clueless man do at this point? Where can they seek that education?
Shallon Lester's YouTube.
Google fuckboy and then Shallon Lester comes up. Even if you don't think you're a fuckboy, just Google it.
I know. And if you're a hot one, I'll probably still date you. If you're a D1 athlete, come talk to me. But you can call guys out. Like, I date young guys. Like, the boys I'm dating are 22, and that's like my sweet spot. I love younger boys.
22?
I love them. That's
like fresh out of the oven. Like what?
So like 10 years younger. You're going.
They're so
roughly.
cute.
But why?
And because I've realized that there's not a huge correlation in terms of age and maturity. And like the worst breakup I ever had was a 40-year-old. And I was like, talk about clueless. I was trying to like give him feedback and be like, you can't do this. And he's like, I don't fucking care. He's like, you don't like this? I'll trade up for a 25-year-old.
Oh,
like that was his motto. But it's like the boys who are younger, you give them feedback and they're like, oh, okay. Like they're still like willing to learn about women, they're in school. They're literally learning all day. Like,
yeah.
Where'd you go? College. She just fell.
Sorry, I dropped my. They're still in college.
She's getting too worked up about this.
My iPad's like, enough of this. Sorry.
But I think that's a good point. It's like if someone is willing to work with you versus telling you that they just know how it is, that's a good sign to see if they're really a fuckboy.
Yeah, but going back to this driver analogy, I can't get off of it because I'm still on this highway. I'm like, hey, driving down this highway looking for drunk and bad drivers. I feel like the onus is, yes, on the men to get their education, but also on other women, because other women, there's some women who will be like, you know what, you can get back out on the road if you just take a mile, just go for a mile. You're only allowed on the road for a mile. And that guy will take that mile and stretch it to 5 miles. And the next woman will be like, it's cool. I know you're a bad driver, but you can go on the road as long as it's just under 5 miles. And this fucks it up for the rest of the women who come onto this road. And they're like, no, I don't want you on this road. And they're like, well, these other women let me drive 6 miles.
You know what, though? Totally. I think this goes back. I'm sticking to my original guns on the one call out, okay?
She's handing out driver's licenses left and right, just like...
Hey, I give you one driver's license.
She made a lane just for them. She carved out a lane.
One driver's license, and then I revoked that shit. So, but I think, again, people aren't mind readers. And I think that's why it's like you say how you want to be treated. I agree with you 100% on people will do what you let them to do. So I agree if you, let's say you have the guy that hasn't contacted you for 6 weeks. I think also, I will say, I think different situations are more obvious than others. Like, I think that's a pretty obvious one. Like, if they've just gone dark and then they hit you up at like midnight, okay, that's like a pretty obvious. In my opinion, I would just ignore that. But I think it's more these ones that are kind of like on the edge that I'm a little more forgiving to at least give them that one out. And I'd maybe even just flat out say like, hey, like, I'm a little disappointed that X happened, and let them respond. But then after that, and again, hear what they say. Like we were talking about earlier, your ex that just was like, that's how I am. That's not cool, right? But if they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Like, let me, do this, and this. Let's talk about it. I think that's a very different reaction, and you can really gauge someone a lot differently. So that's why I stand by the one-time call out.
No, you're right. But what I've learned is like, everyone's going to say, oh, okay.
Yep.
You know, and even my
Mm.
douchey ex, he didn't flat out say, I'll trade up. But I mean, he implied it. And at the end of the day, his behavior never changed. So like, yeah, call someone out and don't even listen to what they say. It's like, I just try to go like totally blank. And like, that's why I like to do it almost via text, because if I'm calling someone out in real life, I get bamboozled by like the chemistry. Because text, it's like I can simply like not even read the text and then base it on, is there a behavioral shift? Because they're just going to shuck and jive and be like, oh, you're right, gosh, I'm sorry. And it's like, is the effort maybe like 5% more? And then it just goes way back. Because we have to remember that when someone likes you truly in the right way, none of these things really happen. Like, and I didn't know this until I got into a healthy relationship. Like, I wasn't like stressing over the text that I was sending. He was leading all the conversations. When I was on the first date, he was planning the second date, planning the third date. Like, every question in my mind was already answered up front, you know? And yeah, I mean, not like it's 100% smooth sailing. There's going to be like, this is what I need, this is what you need, and the refining, but it was not the anxiety of, what do I have to do? How do I have to play this to get him to plug into me the way I'm plugged into him?
Right.
Like, that was not present.
So maybe that's the litmus test, because I agree. And I'm not promoting people to like give people the benefit of the doubt if they're feeling like super anxious. I think it's like, if you feel that, you say your needs, then they don't act on it. I fully agree with like, what they say actually means nothing, but I think having the conversation at least makes them aware. And then you can see how they act.
Yes.
But I agree, if you're feeling on edge, anxious all the time, like, listen to that feeling.
Yeah, because that truly, we don't understand that is not how it's supposed to feel. And that sounds so obtuse and obvious, but it isn't obvious if that's all you've ever felt in relationships and dealing with boys. It's like, and you watch movies and it's like, they break up, they get back together, love never runs smooth. Like, actually it should run pretty darn smooth for a really long time.
So what's your story? I want to hear your story, and
give it
I want to hear
us.
about your past fuckboys, how you identified them, how you changed it, and then how you got into healthy relationships.
The old, young, and geriatric. Give it to us.
I had gone down all of these paths too. Like, I had done everything that I caution girls against. I had done like times 1 million. And I was so chronically single, and I would look around my life. I'd be like, I'm an author, I'm cute-ish, target. And
super cute.
Hoops.
Yeah. Like, I never had a problem meeting guys. I had a problem keeping guys. And that I would feel that would be so corrosive to my self-esteem. I'm like, well, they like me until they get to know me. This is horrible, you know? But looking back on my behavior, I was so fragmented as a person that I was Shallon casting the role of boyfriend in her life. It's like, whoever comes through the door, sure, you want to do a reading? Yeah, that's fine. Like, I was just looking for like an emotional seat filler. And the guys I would get twisted on, like, I have a name for people like this, and then we all have one. I call them a hurt locker, because it's like this person in which we store all of our hurts. And my hurt locker was a professional hockey player. And it took me years to get over it, years and years, because the people we get super fixated on, they're not the people we love and want to date. They're the people we want to be. Yeah. And we don't know how to translate these traits. Like, we do like female to female, like a girl crush. But boys, it's like, I looked back on him and he had his whole life together. He was so humble. He was so hardworking. He was so focused. And I was literally none of those things. I was like bratty and lazy. And so I was like, I love you. And all of my hurt lockers, they've been boys that I've imprinted on during a really low emotional point in my life. Like, I was married for about a year and I got divorced. And I met this boy right after that. And I was like, I'm obsessed with you. Like, I couldn't even breathe. My moods lived and died by whether or not we were talking. And it was a horrible, manic place to be. And it was because I wanted to be him, because he was like young and fresh and just starting his life. And I felt like my life was over, you know, like I felt washed up and terrible. And when I finally stopped running from all of those feelings and focused truly on my life and did like housekeeping emotionally for myself, everything started to change. And you think like, oh, doing that work, it's going to be a year and a half of celibacy and daily crying. And it's not. Like,
well, everyone's celibate
we,
now anyways, right?
Right, there you
yes, we are. Yeah, not even the people coupled up are getting laid. Like, they're so sick of each other by now. I have to believe that.
That makes you feel better. It makes me feel better too.
We're fucking like bunnies. Don't worry. It's still happening. It's fantastic.
I hate you, but I'm glad somebody is. It's not me. But yeah, it's like you realize once you just do a little bit of that introspection and like learning, I call them like emotional autopsies, like going back through situations that didn't work out. And just like a real autopsy, they're disgusting. It's awful and nauseating to like tear something open and really look at it. But that's how you can learn. Like I got after my divorce and after my Hurt Locker, I met my ex-boyfriend, Max, who my readers know my fans know all about him, and he's done videos with me, and we broke up last year, like off and on, and then like re-broke up a month ago. And it's been fucking brutal. And it's like, we're doing another autopsy. We're doing another autopsy. And it's not fun. It's not fun, but like the work has to keep continuing. And after every breakup, there has to be that learning. And because learning is growth, but growth is painful and it's awkward.
So I've been there myself too, but why do you think even despite all the growth, you're still kind of going back and forth with him?
Yeah.
Because of codependency. And I'm like learning that, like, it's because that was what I said. And what I was talking to my therapist about, I'm like, why can't I let go? And the obvious answer is, well, you love them. And it's like, we can't just say that it's love. And it is. But like, I was very fixated on fixing all of his problems. This is what I do for a living, and I couldn't turn it off. And that's always been my role in like friendships. Like I'm the fixer and I'm giving advice. And I just became it turned into a parent-child dynamic, And then it was like, I'm nagging about his shoelaces and the Swiffer's on upside down. And it's like,
But this is also something we hear from our listeners too, is that they turn the focus on the other person. So when they're like, oh no, once this person becomes the person I want them to be, our relationship is going to be flawless. And we hear this from men too, we've had one guy who said, if I can just show her how perfect I am for her, then we be perfect together. And it's because he's turning that focus on the other person, and it never will work out great that way, because the focus should be on yourself, because you can only control yourself. You can't control the other person.
Right. But it's ironically, like the thought of controlling ourselves seems so much more overwhelming than controlling other people.
Why is that?
Because we have pain. When we look at our own issues, we have pain. And our mind and our psyche, the chief function is to insulate ourselves from pain, because it costs us energy, and energy costs us food and mating and shelter. We're like cavemen inside. And so if we can control someone else, we have this neutrality where it's like, well, fuck, I don't know, if they fight with their parents, no skin off my back. Like we can walk away from those issues, but we cannot walk away from ourselves. But it's, when we think about examining our own issues, it just seems like this pit, this bottomless pit that we're going to fall into. We're going to start crying and we are never going to stop. And I talk about like psychological splinters. Like you get a splinter and pulling it out is going to hurt, but you also know that if you leave it, it's going to fester. It's going to get so much worse. And you have to just yank it out, because at least now you're sad and you're in pain in service of healing. There's some sort of point to it, not just I'm in chaos and everything's just throbbing and hurting over and over and over again. We have to yank that out.
Well, I think that's why people are having such hard times right now with the quarantine. Like I think the people that have done the work, that are single on their own, maybe are adjusting better. But there's a lot of people that I've talked to that are just like, oh, I can't go out. I can't go to this event. I can't like see this person and this person and this person. I'm like, damn, do people just have like a way more social life than I do? That I'm like, damn, it's been like 2 weeks. It has been 2 full weekends in San Francisco that we've been on lockdown. It's 2 weeks. Like, it's not that much. And I think it's that sitting with your own thoughts. That is really hard for people. So we found all these distractions. So I agree that now is probably the time where a lot of people will have a chance to do that self-work. And it might get really uncomfortable.
Yeah. It's withdrawal, like everyone has vices, and whether it's alcohol, it's like very clear what that vice is, or it's just social media and keeping yourself busy. And that's how I was. And it destroyed my marriage. It did. And because I couldn't just be home with him. I had to be at every event. I had to be on every red carpet, blah, blah, blah. And who the hell wants to be married to someone like that? You know,
Right.
That wasn't what he signed up for. And he thought he was going to change me. And I thought I was going to change him, you know, and it cost me a wonderful person, you know, and I was like, I'm not just going to hurt for no reason over this. Like, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to grow somehow from this and be okay being alone with myself. I mean, there was a lot of other reasons, but that, at least that was something that was coming from my side of the street that like, okay, this is something I can focus on, you know?
But also a lot of people who get out of marriages, the first relationship they jumped into, they want to apply all of their learnings into that person. And they think, well, I learned all this from my previous marriage that I can make this relationship perfect. And when that relationship doesn't work out, you feel like a failure. You feel like, what happened? Why did I not apply the learnings like the way that I wanted them to?
You know what?
That's a really good point.
It's super interesting because I feel like too, a lot of times people are like, I really want to be in a relationship. I don't have time to date. I feel like we get that over and over and over again. And it's like, they cannot find time in their schedule to like go and meet these dates because they have too many events. They have too many friends to see. They have too much work to do, whatever it may be. And I think this is like actually causing people to slow down and see if that, like, make that time. I think it's bringing to the surface the importance of relationships, because at the end of the day, that's like who is there for you is your loved ones. And hopefully by slowing down during this time, people will actually be able to slow down a little in their actual lives once things pick up to make room for that partner.
Right. I don't know how it's like someone saying,
oh, sorry, keep going.
It's like I really want a good body, but I don't have time to work out. It's like, okay, well, I think you know the outcome.
People,
you know?
Yeah, people say this all the time, and it's like, well, how is just, if you're in a relationship, first of all, how are you going to get there? But second, like, when you are you just magically going to have all the time in the world? Like, unless you just literally throw your life away. That's the other thing.
That's a really good point. It's like a relationship is not just this thing you wind up and it just goes of itself forever. It's like, that to me tells me people are being like, I used to be, where it's like, I'm casting for the role of boyfriend. I'm casting for the role of whatever. It's like, you just need like a person here. And then they're just going to be here role. And then
read some lines. I don't know. And you're good.
I love dating. People like, hey, I love it. I love the ups and downs even. It's exciting and like meeting new people. And and the best case scenario is, oh my gosh, now this person's in my life more and there's room for them. But it's, when people say marriage is work, like it is. Every relationship, friendships are work, coworker relationships are work. Like, and if they just want to go to that like level 10, the sweatpants and Netflix level, I don't think they really have the emotional IQ to sustain that. So like, well, no wonder you don't have it, you know?
Well, that's the problem. This is what we hear from a lot of people too, is that they want the family, they want the kids, they want the house with the dog and blah, 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 blah. But then they're not willing to pave that road to get there. So for some reason, I think it's like this idea of like instant gratification. I think our generation is so guilty of this, is that we want the microwave effect with relationships. We think this is raw. This is something that's frozen. And it's magically going to just defrost in the microwave. And when it comes out, it's going to be ready. It'll be ready for me. And that's not how relationships work. And that's not how life works in general either. So those are just some of the learnings that I think people could really think about while they're in quarantine.
So they want that microwave because they're trying to fill a void, you know, like they think that's what's going to make them happy, is like checking a box. It's like being a tourist versus being a traveler. A tourist is like, I want to see the Louvre. Like, I want to see the Mona Lisa. I want to say I've seen it. A traveler wants to like plan the trip, pack the bag, explore, blah, blah, blah. They want the journey, not just the destination, because it's like, okay, you've seen it. Okay, you have a husband. Like, do you think that's the end of your problems? Do you think having kids means you never stress about where your life is going again? Ask some parents quarantined home with their kids.
They're just trying to survive. I told Julie this. I was at a wedding. I I guess it was like a few years ago, and there was this really well-known tech founder there, and he has a lot of these like founder friends who are all at an age that they want to get married. All of a sudden they're done dating Instagram models and they're like, hey, I'm ready for a wife. And he said to me, he said, Yue, you would make so much money if you can write code for the perfect wife for someone. And he was being totally serious. He's like, here's a business idea, a code, a formula where a guy would just plug and chug what he's looking for, his personality, and it would then feed
gonna lose her mind.
And it would feed into an app like Bumble or Tinder, and then boom, come out like a machine, like a vending machine, come out with the right person for them, the perfect person. And he said this on top of, he goes, and if you write this code and it does come out with this it dispenses the perfect wife for that person, then they just get married. That's it. That's the end. They get married, and that's it.
Shallon, this is what we have to deal with in the Bay Area. She's about to lose her fucking mind.
Oh, I know. People are like, oh, if you leave New York, you should go to San Francisco. It's like, no, thank you. Nope, I am.
Did we just officially seal the deal not to come?
Shallon, if you came to San Francisco, I give you 1 year to become that person on the street on your AirPods, just like swearing to yourself. Fuck.
I feel like Shallon would like slap everyone into shape here. I think you need to come here for a year. Someone should pay you to move here for a year.
It's like a tour of duty, the government.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think there's a lot, like, back to the intentional fuckboys or not intentional. I think my personal opinion in San Francisco is, I would say it's like 80-20. 80% not intentional because they're just clueless.
Oh,
and there are the 20%. There are the 20% that are just like racking up girls, right? So it's like you either get no one, or it's like the same group of guys that are getting everyone. But you should come and whip them into shape.
You should. Oh my gosh, a Shallon boot camp.
Like, no.
I would love to do it. This is a goal for next year, is to do like retreats. And it's going to be
but
gnarly.
This is not one of those yoga retreats where you feel zen. Nope. This is like, you're going to get abused.
Shallon's like, I'll do it for a week, not a year.
No, can you just see this? We line up like 20 guys and she goes down the line. She's like, quick, how many days till you text her back? And he's like, 5. And you're like, across of it. No, fuck you. Next.
He's like, I don't know if I should text her. You're like, get your fucking shit in order.
She like kicks him in the balls. She's like, fuck you. Next.
Oh my God. Well, this has been one hell of a conversation. I think
this has been so fun.
I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is, use this time. Yeah. I think it's how I love this idea of the mating, different seasons for beers. Like that analogy. You've thrown out so many good analogies this hour that we've been talking to you. But I think it's a great thing to remember that, like, your dating life isn't going to go away. And a lot of times, and I found this from experience, the best way to meet someone is to get yourself in the best place of your own personal happiness, and it's not going on date after date after date. So use this time. I mean, there are some people that are trying virtual dates, and I think everyone needs to decide what's right for them. But if you're not up for that right now, like, don't feel bad about that either. Like, use your time, get your house in order, decide what you're going to stand for. I'm turning a corner a little, that the quarantine is not an excuse for bad behavior. I think
You're revoking that driver's license?
No,
finally?
No. I mean, I still think there's like a line, but I agree. If you haven't heard from someone at all, even maybe you sent them the one text, they haven't replied back, or sent you a lukewarm message, do not fucking regroup with that person after
kick
quarantine.
them off the road.
No. This is a time that you are seeing who is there for you. So I guess my other takeaway is, even if you're going to take my advice of the one-time driver's tickets and then I'm going to do driver tickets. I'm not giving anyone a license. I'm giving them like a warning, right? So I'm going to say, if you're going to take that advice, still use it as a data point and see what they do with that. Like, the fact that they weren't reaching out on their own, and and if they don't have like a good excuse, like something is really ill, or if they don't have a real reason, like someone is ill, like, then use that as a data point. And also what they do after you reach out, use that as data points. Data points are very important.
They are. And sometimes it helps to literally write them down, because we only tend to want to remember the positive ones,
Right.
you know? It's like, try to approach it neutrally, and you can approach things more neutrally if you like yourself more, you know, because you're looking out for like the Shallon Corporation, you know, like I'm looking out for my own interests. And because you can't be half of a whole if you don't know what half you are.
Yeah.
And this is the time to know.
Have you heard of Matthew Boggs? He's like a dating expert.
I've heard of him, but I haven't listened.
So he had this one video that I caught somehow. Maybe it was through a Google search of Fuckboys. I don't know. He's competing with you on SEO. He had this really great way of handling it that has stuck with me to this day. So he basically gives an example. I'll love to hear your thoughts of this, but let's say someone hasn't texted you back for like a month, right? They've fallen off the face of the universe. Of course, they come crawling back. So his recommendation was to respond, be nice on text, and then be like, hey, do you have a second? I just want to like talk to you about something that's been on my mind. Call them up to have like a voice to it and be like, hey, like, I don't know, like say something like, I was disappointed that you didn't follow through with what you said that you were going to do. I personally date men. I'm probably butchering this. Hopefully I'm not, but
no.
It's like,
I love it.
He's like, I personally want to date men that are true to their words. Is this the type of man you are? And let them respond. So it's like,
but who is going to say no? No guy's going to be like, no, I'm not. Right. Like no one's going to say no, because no one wants to think that about themselves, you know?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the counter to it, but he was basically like, collectively call them out. That was his feedback. But anyways, that's a little bit of a tangent.
No, I like that. I mean, it's like, call someone out, you know, at the very least, you're going to help women as a whole and maybe give him a lesson. It's like, hey, this isn't appropriate, you know?
That's true. Maybe that's a takeaway, is anything you can do to help women as a whole.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and also we just need to be more consistent with our actions so that we don't train these bad drivers to go back out on the road. Two major takeaways for me. One is, I love what you said, Shallon, the words "in service of something," because I think sometimes when we sit with our feelings, we see there's no end in sight. When is this depression, the sadness, this loneliness going to end? But when you put in the context of in service of something, then you feel like you're climbing a ladder, that there is an end in sight. So I'm feeling the loneliness in service of me feeling free after this, feeling more confident after this.
Right.
And that way you can visualize your emotional ladder of how you can climb your way to your ultimate happiness. Yeah. And this other idea of what you said about dating people who you want to be, that is so fascinating. I actually have never really thought about that, but that's because who you want to be is someone you admire. So of course you admire the person that you're dating. Yeah. I've been reading this book called Atomic Habits, James Clear. I'm sure some of you have read it too, but it's a fabulous book all about how your habits can feed into your ideal identity. So if you are starting to see your pattern of liking people, falling for people who you want to be, start writing down what their identity is, because it's not about them, it's about you, right? So if this is the identity you wish to be, then your everyday habits should be a vote for that identity. When I wake up in the morning and I read an article about this, is that a vote for this identity? Or is that a vote for another identity? And he talks about how you just keep casting votes every day in your daily habits on that, for that identity that you really want to be. And it's a great way to collect data as well, to see how you're really doing this. And it's
That's
good
amazing.
Because, isn't that great? It's like such a great to visualize. And it's all right to falter. Sometimes you want to be that active person, but then maybe today you stay in bed and you're voting for another identity. Then you know that tomorrow you just have to balance it out.
Yeah. I love that.
So I really enjoy that, but it really comes from your thought of you being with people that you want to be. That is just mind blowing.
I think that's such a good point though, is that like, if you're finding that you're holding on to someone because of their qualities, like how do you just evoke that within yourself?
Right.
Like how do you build those qualities for yourself?
Right.
Sorry,
It's
Shallon,
like
I
if
cut you
you
off.
could, no, that's okay. But like if you could print money at home, you would never go get a job and work for someone else. You print that money at home. If you could print your own self-esteem, if you could print these traits at home, you wouldn't need to go out and find them in other people. You would enjoy them when you found them in others, because they'd be like, oh, now you're my equal. I'm not like, oh, I have to be around you. You're not thirsty. Like they are not the only way you see those traits. You see them every day in everything that you do for yourself.
Yeah, I think that really is another takeaway too, is like, is this person an equal, or do you have this like unhealthy obsession with them? Because I think that also helps to understand when you should be giving someone the benefit of the doubt versus being.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that maybe that is the revelation here, because like when you're in a relationship, like people aren't mind readers, right? Like they could be doing something that is unintentionally hurting you, and it is not malicious. Like there was another like dating coach out there that used to say, his name was like Evan Markatz. I don't know if you heard of him, but he used to say like all the time, like if he's your boyfriend, he has your best intentions at heart, and give him the benefit of the doubt. If he's not your boyfriend, that's a totally different situation.
Exactly. Don't give boyfriend elasticity to someone you're only dating.
Right.
Like,
and maybe that's where the line is. And I think it's also like, how are you feeling? Are you generally calm? Maybe they haven't texted you, but you're generally calm and you're like, well, I know that they really do care, versus you're like in a like frenzy, right?
Totally.
And I think that's very different.
Yeah. Is behavior an outlier, or is it part of a pattern? You know, if it's an outlier, it can be corrected. If it's like, if this is the norm, you know, and then you have to ask yourself, why do I allow this to be the norm? Why am I okay feeling this bad? Am I desperate? Is this how I felt around my parents? Is this how my mom felt around my dad? You know, where does it end? And again, that kind of thing feels like bottomless to explore, but it really isn't. Like even just being aware, like once I became aware of like why I had that codependent thing with my ex-boyfriend, I was able to back away from it. And it's like, okay, now I see that the part of my brain that's telling me to do this is like demon brain, you know, like it's my demon brain. It's not my rational Shallon brain. And I'm like, okay, thank you for the suggestion, demon brain, but I'm actually not going to go with that choice, you know? And just that sliver of objectivity made all the difference. We still broke up, but
but I think that is
demon brain. Demon brain is horny. I don't know.
Right. It's like the 90%. It's like the 90% rule, though. Like, are you feeling good like 90%, or is it like every day there's a new emotion happening? Like, those are ways that you can really identify how much of a fuckboy this is. But
totally.
To your point, I love the one other takeaway I'll do before kicking the takeaways to someone else or being done with the episode. But I think the one last takeaway that I have is this idea that I love this bad driver, drunk driver analogy. Just because someone's not aware of what they're doing doesn't make it okay. And I think a lot of times we justify that behavior. And it's, oh, he's a nice guy. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't mean well. If you're not feeling good, and again, this goes back to what we were just saying, is this a pattern or a one-off? If it's a one-off, call it out. If it's a pattern, it doesn't really matter what his intention is.
No, because it's not your job to fix him. And that's what we almost like that. If it's a pattern, it's like, oh, now I get to dig in. I have a project. It's like, no.
Like, you can't tell him. You can't tell him to go to driver's ed, but still let him drive to your house. I mean, that's just not. He's not going to learn anything from that. So let him figure out that he needs to go to driver's ed on his own. Yeah. So Shallon, you do your daily live stream from 3 to 4:30 Pacific time every day on your YouTube channel. If anybody wants to tune in, and you're going to be doing this for the foreseeable future.
I took like the last day or two off just because I needed to like reset. But I'm still doing my daily videos on like Love is Blind, the Kardashians, Ellen, and like what we can learn from people like that. And I forgot to say this at the beginning, but the whole reason we like started talking and did this collab is because I commented on
the engagement video.
The engagement video. You guys thought I was kidding. I was not kidding. I
didn't think you were kidding.
On the internet. Nobody wants to see this.
No,
I didn't remember commenting it.
I told
blacked out on
Julie.
Kim Crawford.
I told Julie that I didn't think you were kidding, and she thought you were kidding. She's like, reach out to her, see if she wants to elaborate on it. I'm like, I don't think she's kidding. I think she was really mad by this post.
Look what happened, though.
So
we got
triggered.
a collaboration out of it. So that's why the half glass full can sometimes be a positive.
I was like, I'm going to report this to Instagram. This is offensive. People getting engaged. This is ridiculous.
Hey, we got you. The plan worked. The plan worked.
I fell right into your trap.
I feel like we've been trying to get you on the podcast for some time now. We've like hit you up a few times, so we got you.
Oh my gosh. Well, now you're stuck with me. I'll be back on here.
Oh yeah, we trapped you. So our game playing really worked.
The whole point of that post. You just didn't tell it.
We actually just deleted the post.
Yeah. You should. Hurtful.
Mission accomplished. But for anyone that doesn't know your YouTube channel, can you kind of tell people where they can check it out?
Yeah, it's just my name, Shallon Lester, on YouTube. And you can follow me on Instagram, Cameo, and TikTok at ShallonXO. And my podcast is called Girl on Top, and it's out every Wednesday. And if you guys have a love question and you want to like talk to me one-on-one, I answer individual questions on my website, shallonlester.com.
Awesome.
So sweet. And if you're interested in the Shallon boot camp where she'll kick you in balls, let us know. We're gonna start a wait list now.
We're gonna help you arrange that.
Yeah. And if you don't want to be in the boot camp and you are a D1 athlete, you may also slide into my DMs. I am very bored.
I love it. You're like, I'm all against fuckboys unless you're a D1 athlete. Then all the rules.
I mean, because you know what? You've got the abs to back it up. So I'm not mad at that.
Hey. It's all good.
If you're going to be a douchebag, you have to be hot. That's all I ask.
Yeah, exactly. The horny demon is talking again.
But I think that is like on a closing note. I think it is a good lesson for all men, right? Of how would a woman be feeling right now? Can you put yourself in their shoes, whether it's you're intentionally trying to fuck someone over or totally clueless? Yeah. Can you just take a step back and be like, okay, I'm not getting the dating results I want. Is it me? Because I feel like a lot of times people play the victim mentality, right? Yeah. It's like, why don't women like me? And it's like, wait, could I just put in 10 more minutes to better understand women opposed to 10 more minutes complaining that no women like me?
Right. It's like, be a human being. Be a human being. And like, women are constantly giving feedback. We are constantly talking and sharing how we feel. It's like, maybe just listen in service of a blowjob. Try it.
Sweet. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much, Shallon, for being on Dateable.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
You are fun. Such a riot. You are unstoppable. You are unstoppable. We love you. We love you. Love your content. Yeah, Shallon on top. That's how it is. It's her world and we just live in it.
That should be your tagline. I love it.
Yeah. And just me with like long nails and like a pink pleather hat. Be like, what? Like,
no, it's you. It's you, Shallon, with tentacles. It's you with tentacles.
And hoop earrings.
And hoop earrings. That's all you need. Okay, on the count of 3, we like to wrap it up by saying "Stay Dateable," and we sing it. We're like, "Stay Dateable." So please join in on our song here. 1, 2, 3. Stay dateable. Dateable.